There's a question that I have been wrestling with for a few years now. It began when I was leaving my corporate finance job at a technology company and beginning to pursue mission work as my full-time career. While I was at that company, I saw the rise of the AI boom. Technology being used inside the company, the overuse inside or outside of the company, and the company itself was responsible for supplying so much of the hardware used for AI. And today I want to talk to you about something that I like to call the dictatorship of technocracy. The church today is beginning to address more and more technocracy and the modern technocratic paradigm. The shift of our society to outsourcing our intelligence to technology, data, science, mathematics, rather than reason, philosophy, theology, and logic. So the word technocrat sounds both troubling and a little bit admirable all at the same time. So what does technocracy or a technocrat really mean? Technocracy is when a society offloads decision-making and really puts a high emphasis on science, technical expertise or technical processes, mathematics, calculations, equations, technology itself as a decision-making process. It's the development of experts and expert culture as the only trusted source. Now you see, this isn't a bad thing. So much of our progress and our connectedness today, people being healthy and cured from diseases, comes from technocracy. So we have it to thank. But there's a second meaning, and this is where things get dangerous. It's when an individual person takes on a technocratic worldview. That this is the silent technocracy that really takes influence and stronghold over society and slowly erodes the human dignity of the person. This happens when tools, technology, software that we use on a daily basis begins to become something that we rely on, and it becomes put on the throne instead of God or our own intellect and reason. What begins as something that's a useful tool that we can check out what it has to say once every while masquerades as something that always has a complete, full answer faster than anybody else can give you one. And anything of this regard without philosophy or consideration is dangerous, especially in terms of absolute truth. So I want you to imagine a man that's standing beneath the stars. He could do one of two things. He could look up, he could ponder, he could gaze, he could wonder about the universe, its beauty, its glory, or he could pray and seek to a higher power and ask God, what is this? Who are you? What am I made for? Or he could go on his phone, take a picture, put it into a search engine and say, what are these? What's the purpose? How do they work? And he might get a true, accurate, complete answer that's based on science and what we know, but he loses wonder. He loses the pursuit of something greater than himself. The deepest human questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? Who is God? And what does he have in store for me? Those are lost when we outsource all of our thinking to machinery. When I was in school, we had different ways of thinking. We primarily learned the Socratic method, which was the predecessor to the technocratic method that we now see in modern schooling today. The Socratic method did not rule out reason or rationality. It did not rule out debate. It was not focused on finding one central and final answer based on the calculation of what is probably the most accurate. Instead, it came through community, through relationship, through pursuit, through excellence, through study, through time and consideration. It came through so much more human and personal and relational effort. The Socratic method, the traditional theological method, the just simple ontological methods, these all demand contemplation. They know that calculation, that's not going to cut it alone. They know that there's reason and that we need experience, we need tradition, we need to pursue something greater than ourselves, and then we can truly understand things. And I want to be honest with you. I think you probably feel this as well. That sometimes AI or other technology feels like an addiction. It feels like an addiction to nicotine, specifically. If you had any kind of addiction, you can relate to this. You want an answer so bad, or you want something, you chasing the dopamine, the instant gratification, the feeling. And it seems so good before you have it. And then it gets in the grasp of your hand, you inject it, you take it, whatever it is, it gives you this few moments of pleasure, and then it flees. And then you're left wanting more. And you keep going back over and over and over again. And this cycle is something that's beginning to develop with technology use. It's something that we're seeing so many more resources created to break out of this cycle, which these are all great things. But when are we going to stop the problem at its root and cut off our own access to it? An acquaintance once described AI as the one ring of our generation, and I think that's a really great description. It's a power, and it could be used for good, but it's so tempting to be used for something that is self-serving, that is oriented towards sole profit, towards control, and serves the interests of just a few rather than the many. And sometimes distracts us from the sole sake of what the mission is, to bring the gospel to the ends of the world. I'm not saying that AI is evil like The Ring and Lord of the Rings is, but that it is tempting you towards evil, that you kind of want a little bit more. And this is what any vice or any created good that can be abused can do to us. We have to learn how to be sober and be temperate with the use of these things. With this, and even despite knowing the financial, environmental, and societal, and some of the psychological effects that we know, or speculate at least that we have today, I still find myself putting my hands in a glorious, attractive worldview of industry, progress, optimization, efficiency, and honestly sacrifice a lot of my life on those altars. And it's horrible, and I wish I didn't. And I think what's even worse is there's sometimes whenever I end up using AI that I don't feel bad, even though I think that I really should. The church has been thinking about this problem and the problem of human dignity for a lot longer than Silicon Valley or Tech Ridge has. In fact, it's been thinking about it for over a century. Rerum Novarum, Centesimus Annus, Antiqua et Nova, Magnificat Humanitas. There's so much work that is going towards the human dignity, understanding work, the industrial and technological revolutions, understanding how we operate in the digital age. People are thinking about it. People that are smarter than I, and thank God that they are. And the consistent message from these documents is this, that the Christian worldview does not reject innovation. It does not entirely reject technology or machinery, but it rejects when we elevate them to an idol or when we outsource or offload our intelligence or our daily tasks that really, honestly, we should be doing to the machinery. At the end of the day, technology is a servile machine. It should seek to fulfill human dignity and human flourishing, to be at the betterment of society, the good of all people for the majority, and especially should serve the mission to make Jesus Christ known to every corner of the world. It becomes dangerous and spiritually dangerous when it seeks the throne in your life. It replaces the confessor, the spiritual director, or the psychologist, and when we give it the throne, when we say, yes, you make my decisions for me. The central question is not how powerful this tool is. We already know that it's powerful. But how can it actually serve human flourishing and the continued building of the kingdom of God? Or is this tool going to reshape me into something lesser than I should be, even lesser than I was? And especially, does my opinion even matter after I've read the AI summary? The sin of the Tower of Babel was not the architecture, it was not the way it was constructed or the means, but instead it was the belief that was held behind the construction. It was that humanity could ascend to the heavens by its own power, that we had godlike power that could bring us up to understand the heavens, that we by brick could unite the world, optimizing everything under one central language, one government, one power. And we know today the tower is not built by brick, stone, and mortar and by ancient means, but instead it's built on technology. It's built by algorithms, it's built on database. It's the sole reason that you can watch this now. And that is what it is. It's the world that we live in. But the deeper issue I have is that the light from the tower is beginning to shine into the church and taking over some parts. Catholic shops, Catholic artists, Catholic writers, Catholic content creators. It is taking over. AI-generated content is everywhere. And it is erasing people's livelihood, sometimes people's sole source of income. So at what point do we say no? At what point does this technocratic progress no longer serve us? At what point does it necessitate a rebellion of sorts? The temptation hasn't changed. It's just the technology that's changing, and we need to learn how to govern it. The most saintly men and women I know, they're not obsessed with optimization. They haven't adopted AI. They're still hesitant, and they're asking the questions, they're contemplating, what does this actually serve for the kingdom of God and for the greatness of human dignity? These people yearn for beauty. They seek truth, goodness, community, communion itself. They want friendships. They want relationship. They want something different. They love the mountains, the scriptures, the pursuit of wonder, the seeking God and everything he has for us. Because the reality is we were made for wonder. We were made for relationship. And maybe we're going to look like fools if we resist adopting technology and artificial intelligence in the way that the world does. Maybe we truly will fall behind and we'll be failures. But if I'm a fool and I'm a failure for Christ, I think that means that I have made it, that I am saying yes to what God's will is for my life, that maybe this is how I can actually rebuild the kingdom of God. If the world thinks I'm stupid, but I'm following the will of God, then that's all that I've set out to do. And I would be so happy. And I hope and pray that that would glorify Him. And I think that rebellion would actually bring us back to the path of true human progress, of true unity, of true goodness, and the pursuit of these things for the common good and for the sake of the kingdom of God. I think this would happen. If we were all fools for Christ, I think we would discover again what makes life worth living, and we would have life and we'd have it abundantly. Because at the end of the day, a machine can tell you how to reach a destination, but it can't tell you if it's worth going on. It can tell you the information that you need for the journey, but it's not a true friend on the journey. It's not going to guide you home. It's not going to fill the longing that your heart has for relationship with others and for relationship with God. A culture that is saturated with access to information and the answers to all questions, they're going to eventually forget how to ask the questions that make life worth living. So do not forget how to ask these questions and to pursue them with your whole entire being. If this landed with you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. My social links for other content is down below, and if you like it, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and stay rooted in faith.